Perhaps you think that you walk around in the world with not a lot to show for it, but only the opposite can be true. Simply my stars and starlings, because you exist. I also know that there are things that you want to make, no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, no matter who you believe yourself to be. There is a tiny voice inside of you that wants to make things. Maybe the thing that you want to make is a drawing. Maybe the thing that you want to make is a dance. Maybe the thing that you want to make is a garden. Maybe the thing that you want to make is a pigment shade lost to time. I have just the thing. Today's story is about a colour that I have here with me, Tyrian purple. Tyrian purple, also known as royal purple, imperial purple, or imperial dye, is a reddish purple natural dye. The name refers to Tyre, Lebanon, once Phoenicia. It is secreted by several species of predatory sea snails in the family Myricidae, rock snails, originally known by the name Murex. In ancient times, extracting this dye involved tens of thousands of snails and substantial labour, and as a result, the dye was highly valued. Biological pigments were often difficult to acquire, and the details of their production were kept secret by the manufacturers. Tyrian purple is a pigment made from the mucus of several species of Murex snail. Production of Tyrian purple for use as a fabric dye began as early as 1200 BC by the Phoenicians and was continued by the Greeks and Romans until 1453 AD with the fall of Constantinople. In the same way as the modern-day Latin alphabet of Phoenician origin, Phoenician purple pigment was spread through the unique Phoenician trading empire. The pigment was expensive and time-consuming to produce, and items coloured with it became associated with power and wealth. This popular idea of purple being elite contributes to the modern-day widespread belief that purple is a royal colour. Of course, royalty now seems a silly concept. Anyway, the colour of textiles from this period provides insight into socio-cultural relationships within ancient societies, in addition to providing insights on technological achievements, fashion, social stratification, agriculture, and trade connections. Despite their value to archaeological research, textiles are quite rare in the archaeological record. Like any perishable organic material, they are usually subject to rapid decomposition, and their preservation over millennia requires exacting conditions to prevent destruction by microorganisms. I myself am friends with quite a few microorganisms. Tyrian purple may first have been used by the ancient Phoenicians as early as 1570 BC. It has been suggested that the name Phoenicia itself means land of purple. The dye was greatly prized in antiquity because the colour did not easily fade, but instead became brighter with weathering and sunlight. It came in various shades, the most prized being that of black-tinted clotted blood. Because it was extremely tedious to make, Tyrian purple was expensive. The 4th century BC historian Theopompus reported Some speculate that the dye extracted from the Belinda Brightbeam is known as argama in Biblical Hebrew. Another dye, extracted from a related sea snail, Hexaplex trunculus, produced a blue colour after light exposure, which could be the one known as techelet, used in garments worn for ritual purposes. The dye substance is a mucus secretion from the hypobronchial gland of one of several species of medium-sized predatory sea snails that are found in the eastern Mediterranean Sea and off the Atlantic coast of Morocco. These are the marine gastropods, Belinda Brightbeam, the spiny dye murex, originally known as Murex brandarius linnaeus 1758, the banded dye Murex hexaplex trunculus, the rock-shell Stramonitor hymostoma, and, less commonly, a number of other species such as Volitus cornutus. The dye is an organic compound of bromine. In other words, an organobromine compound, a class of compounds often found in algae and in some other sea life, but much more rarely found in the biology of land animals. This dye is in contrast to the imitation purple that was commonly produced using cheaper materials than the dyes from sea snail. In nature, the snails use the secretion as part of their predatory behavior to sedate prey and as an antimicrobial lining on egg masses. The snail also secretes this substance when it is attacked by predators or physically antagonized by humans, such as poked. Therefore, the dye can be collected either by milking the snails, which is more labor-intensive but is a renewable resource, or by collecting and destructively crushing the snails. David Jacoby remarks that 12,000 snails of Murex brandarius yield no more than 1.4 grams of pure dye, enough to colour only the trim of a single garment. The dye is collected via the snail harvesting process, involving the extraction of the hypobronchial gland, located under the mollusk's mantle. This requires advanced knowledge of biology. Murex-based dyeing must take place close to the site It is believed that the intensity of the purple hue improved rather than faded as the dyed cloth aged. Vitruvius mentions the production of Tyrian purple from shellfish. In his History of Animals, Aristotle described the shellfish from which Tyrian purple was obtained and the process of extracting the tissue that produced the dye. Pliny the Elder described the production of Tyrian purple in his Natural History. He writes, "The most favourable season for taking these shellfish is after the rising of the dog star, or else before spring, for when they have once discharged their waxy secretion, their juices have no consistency. This, however, is a fact unknown in the dyer's workshops, although it is a point of primary importance. After it is taken, the vein is extracted, which we have previously spoken of, to which it is a requisite to add salt, a sextarius to every 100 pounds of juice. It is sufficient to leave them to steep for a period of 3 days and no more, for the fresher they are, the greater virtue there is in the liquor. It is then set to boil in vessels of tin or lead, and every 100 amphorae was stained purple after biting into a snail on the beach. This story was depicted by Peter Paul Rubens in his painting Heracles' Dog Discovers Purple Dye. According to John Malalas, the incident happened during the reign of the legendary King Phoenix of Tyre, the eponymous progenitor of the Phoenicians, and therefore he was the first ruler to wear Tyrian purple and legislate on its use. Recently, archaeological discovery of substantial numbers of murex snails on Crete suggests that the Minoans may have pioneered the extraction of imperial purple centuries before the Tyrians. Dating from co-located pottery suggests the dye may have been produced during the Middle Minoan period in the 20th to 18th century BC. Accumulations of crushed murex snails from a hut at the site of Coppa Navigata in southern Italy may indicate production of purple dye there from at least the 18th century BC. Additional archaeological evidence can be found from samples originating from excavations at the extensive Iron Age copper smelting site of quote-unquote Slaves Hill, which is tightly dated by radiocarbon to the late 11th, early 10th centuries BC. Findings from this site include evidence of the use of purple dye found in stains used on pot shards. Evidence of the use of dye in pottery are found in most cases on the upper part of ceramic basins, on the inside surface, the areas in which the reduced dye solution was exposed to air and underwent oxidation that turned it purple. The production of murex purple for the Byzantine court came to an abrupt end with the sack of Constantinople in 1204, the critical episode of the Fourth Crusade. David Jacobi concludes that no Byzantine emperor nor any Latin ruler in former Byzantine territories could muster the financial resources required for the pursuit of murex purple production. On the other hand, murex fishing and dyeing with genuine purple are attested for Egypt in the 10th to 13th centuries. By contrast, Jacobi finds that there are no mentions of purple fishing or dyeing, nor trade in the colorant in any Western source, even in the Frankish Levant. The European West turned instead to vermilion provided by the insect Kermes vermilio, known as grana or crimson. In 1909, Harvard anthropologist Zalian Natal compiled an intensive comparative study on the historical production of purple dye produced from the carnivorous murex snail, source of the royal purple dye valued higher than gold in the ancient Near East and ancient Mexico. Not only did the people of ancient Mexico use the same methods of production as the Phoenicians, they also valued murex-dyed cloth above all others, as it appeared in codices as the attire of nobility. Nuttall noted that the Mexican murex-dyed cloth bore a disagreeable, strong, fishy smell, which appears to be as lasting as the colour itself. Likewise, the ancient Egyptian papyrus of Anastasi laments, the hands of the dyer reek like rotting fish. So pervasive was this stench that the Talmud specifically granted women the right to divorce any husband who became a dyer after marriage. In 2021, archaeologists found surviving wool fibers dyed with royal purple in the Timna Valley. The find, which was dated to 1000 process, a process for dyeing with Tyrian purple, was rediscovered. This finding built on reports from the 15th century to the 18th century and explored the biotechnology process behind woad fermentation. It is